Welcome, folks. This is the testimony part of our show. This is the part where we will be sharing our testimonies, but in the future, the testimonies of other folks who have been on mission trips, who do outreach in our town, or just they have fun stories to share about what God's doing in College Station or beyond. And today, to start this segment off, Nick and I are going to share our testimonies.
We're doing the whole thing.
The whole thing to right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm excited about it
because I haven't heard yours. I have not heard your entire testimony. I've heard snippets,
really, and
I know generalities. I haven't heard the full.
Well, you're in for a treat, my friend. Actually, you might not be. I don't know. So I was in the church since I was in diapers. I mean, we're talking like before 1 year old. I was in the daycare. I went through the preschool program that our church had. Our church was Calvary Baptist Church in San Marcos, and I love them. They really are family to me, and it has changed a lot over the years. But it is it's where I grew up, and we were So that's just where I was. Mm-hmm. Preschool, daycares. I was always in the church if I was not in school. You start kindergarten, 5 or 6 years old. And about then was when I got saved, believe it or not.
Do you remember that moment, or is it kind of just you?
Yeah. Around that time is when you get started in a kids program called Awanas.
Okay.
Did you ever have Awanas in your church?
No.
Okay. It was basically a kids program. You show up and you all meet together. You'll play a game or do something fun. Then you'll split up in your age groups, and then you get books and you get little vests, and it's kind of like Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts. So there's little patches and things that you can get. Like, you memorized this many verses this week. Here's a patch.
That's cool.
Or is stuff like that. Or maybe you gave offering or something. It's just to teach kids about church life, and it was good. And I don't have a specific date. I don't remember a date.
Okay.
The best that I have is what my dad gave me, because he was there when I started to follow Jesus. And it was the month was January, I think, and the year was 2001.
Okay.
If my memory serves me correctly, and that was a long time ago. But so it was about, I would say, between 5 and 8, somewhere in there. I don't remember the year, but I was in a green chair. I loved this chair. I was sad when we threw it away. And it was, I think, the evening time. Okay. And my dad was either sharing the gospel with me, or we were working on something for Awanas or something. We were the gospel was in conversation, and he led me in, I guess, the way you get saved. Southern Baptist background. You do it during prayer. It wasn't this like insane moment where I had this revelation and I just all of a sudden recognized all my sins as a 5 to 8 year old.
Yeah.
M&M addiction, extreme theft.
Ooh.
Yikes. Those are, not really. those aren't real.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of the that was when it happened. It was that around there, and then from there onward, I stayed with the church, and I just kept moving up in what you did as a kid. So you move up in Awanas, you move up into youth group, so on and so forth. We changed buildings, and I was there helping them when they did that as much as I could. I was always at VBS, kind of like your good little Christian boy, I guess. With every man, I think, you have pornography enter your life. And so that entered mine when I was a kid. It was about that same range.
Oh, wow.
It was shortly after I was saved, yeah. And that lasted until sophomore year of high school.
Dang.
Yeah. I just kind of kept that a secret. The way I described it was, that sin in my life was not this heavy weight
Okay.
on me. You know, it wasn't something that was really keeping me down. It was just something that I didn't know what it was when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And parents, I don't know how much they knew about it. I think there were a couple moments where they found things that I'd look up on the internet, and they tried to address it. And this is not, I'm not trying to dishonor them. They're fantastic parents. But it's just when you're in kind of an independent kid, you kind of keep your thoughts and emotions to yourself. You don't share that kind of stuff, and you keep it hidden. And as you learn about what it is, and you have a guilt associated with it, you're just like, I got an idea. Let's just not, let's not talk about it. If nobody finds out, you don't have to feel guilty.
Okay.
That was kind of my mentality of it. And it's all started off with, I had no idea what it was. I had no idea what I was doing was wrong when it first happened, and then I figured it out, and then I didn't want to address the problem.
Yeah.
I just thought, what, let's just stay there. And it was, I guess you could say it's kind of two-faced, but it didn't have that big of a grasp on me. It was, back to the weight analogy, it wasn't this huge weight. It was more like a 5-pound weight. And it was like strapped to my wrist. Like I could hold it.
Yeah.
It's like I'm still walking with Jesus. He's right here. He and I are having great conversation. I'm growing, but I'm holding on to this weight.
Okay.
And it's not really affecting me that much. I'm not feeling a lot of the guilt or repercussion, as time goes by. And it was when I really started getting into teaching and really started getting into serving the church.
Yeah.
Is when I just kept getting more convicted of it. And I think in my walk is Jesus just going, hey, so you've been carrying that weight a while. You've been carrying that little thing for a while, and it's just been over here on my side. And when he first started pointing it out to me, I was like, don't worry about it. I can carry it. And he's like, you don't have to carry that. And it was, it was sophomore year, high school, band competition. I was reading John 8. I was doing my quiet time on the bus, and then that was when I was like, yeah, I should probably get rid of this. Mm-hmm. And then we had an impact weekend. And you do band in the fall. Impact weekend happened in the spring.
Okay.
And that was kind of your weekend youth revival.
Oh, okay.
16-year-old Caleb Martin. And that was the first time I had ever gone forward during any kind of worship service. Mm-hmm. And that's whenever I laid that at his feet, and I said, here, have this. I don't want to carry this anymore. Yeah. And then I felt liberated, man. I didn't expect myself to feel that good whenever I laid something down that I didn't even think was that bad. Mm-hmm. I laid it down, and I told somebody about it. Like, that was the next thing on my agenda. It's like, okay, go forward. I confess that sin before the Lord, and it's like, okay, now you need to do what James talks about. I think it's James 4 or 5. 5. It's the end of the book. Confessing your sins to one another so that you can be healed. Yeah. And so Desmond Daigle was the guy's name. He was our little leader for the group of guys we were. And I told him about it, and he and I talked for a little bit, and then from there on, it was just kind of we were weaning off of that, but again, weaning off of that, still serving the Lord. If I back up a little bit, what life was like while I was holding on to that sin, going on mission trips. First mission trip was around 6th grade, and I had mission trip every summer until I graduated. Mm-hmm. There was there might be a year or two where I missed something. Played in the praise band, played clarinet and trumpet a little bit. Teaching. I started teaching when I was on one of those mission trips. So I was doing all of these church things. Yeah. And it was a nice cover, I guess you could say, for even just a little bit of sin in your life. And when I say a little, I'm not trying to quantify it, saying that pornography is not as bad as murder or meth or something. I don't know why those are the first things I go to, but it's you're all guilty, but yeah, it didn't seem that big of a deal. And then we get to college.
Yeah.
Go off to Corpus first year. I loved Corpus. I'd love to go back. Is first day of school, started on a Wednesday. BSM free lunch. If you've been to a BSM free lunch, they work. I met folks at a church. It was Lexington Baptist Church, and is Paul and Sam. Paul and Sam. They were the youth or student ministers there, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I met them, and they kind of brought me in, and it was a really small church. It was my first experience with a real small church. Our church, Calvary, had a few hundred people. I don't even know anymore. All I know is we had to get a bigger building because we had multiple services, and we wanted a bigger building to fit everybody, and more classrooms and more space and things. And so I go from that to a congregation of about 50?
Whoa.
60?
Dang.
Yeah. Now I bet if everybody were there, you'd probably get to 100.
Yeah.
If everybody showed up.
That's so small compared to what we're used to now.
Right, but there was no college class.
Yeah.
Okay. It was like a handful of college students. There was a couple. There were just some people who worked. Young couple is what I mean. Yeah. Just some guys who worked, and then Scott and Kylie. They were the pastor and my Sunday school. I guess the Sunday school teacher. Yeah. And they're up in Amarillo now. I miss them, but I got to know them, and they were kind of a good discipleship. I played a discipleship role in my life. But yeah, so did Corpus, then went to College Station, and I'm gonna take a break from my story because we need to pick up on yours because mine's about to take another turn. But we've kind of in the timeline we passed you up a little bit, so let's backtrack. Tell us, Nick, where do you come from? Where do you go?
On paper, it seemed like there were a lot of similarities in terms of what our lives looked like, but the reasons behind them and like why things were being done are very different. Because I have been probably going to church since diapers. I don't remember a time where my mom didn't say, "Hey, we're going to church on Sunday." I went to every Sunday school as a kid, and my favorite part of going to Sunday school was the free cookie and lemonade that was outside at the snack spot after the adults got out of service. I'd always run down. I knew how to get to Sunday school super quickly because I loved being first. And I loved being first out, so I'd go get my snack. That was me when
Get your cookie.
I needed my free cookie. And that was when I went to, I don't remember what church it was in Houston, but it was like a church in downtown Houston. It was a really massive church. Okay. And then I was really involved in Sunday school and youth group when I moved to Connecticut when I was around 7. I spent most of my childhood in where I would consider like my development years in Connecticut. From 7 to 15, went to every Sunday school, was friends with a lot of people in Sunday school, I was super involved in youth group, went to every, it was called, the middle school youth group was called Spark, and the high school youth group was called Jolt. They both met on Sundays. It would Spark would meet from 4:30 to 6 on Sunday nights. It would be a mix of like Bible study and games and stuff and just hanging out. Then from 6 to 7, the two youth groups would come together and like one family would make dinner for everyone. We'd have a joint youth dinner, which was really fun because I was friends with a lot of the older people and I just didn't get to see them outside of that dinner. So that was fun. And then Jolt would meet from 7 to 8:30 or 7 and 9 because we were older. We could stay out later kind of deal. Yeah. And you're just getting into some deeper stuff than you were in middle school. And then there was also a Bible study Wednesday nights for, once again, a split middle school, high school kind of deal. Some years it kind of molded into two just because depending on the kids, we were, my class and like the class above me were a bit more mature. So we were allowed to slip in between the cracks of what it meant to be middle schooler versus a high schooler. Yeah. And I was super involved with that. Went to every mission trip possible starting in 6th grade. Went to Pennsylvania a lot to help with relief packaging, relief supplies for natural disasters. That was a center in Pennsylvania. In middle school, since we couldn't do hardcore stuff, we would package stuff. Right. And then one of my favorite mission trips was in high school. We did tornado relief in Massachusetts my freshman year. That was so much fun, and I had a great time. I got confirmed when I was in 8th grade.
Okay, confirmed. That's a special word. I don't think that's a Baptist word.
No.
What kind of church were you in?
Oh, I at this time, I don't remember what I was in Houston, but in Connecticut, I was a part of the United Methodist Church.
Okay.
Because I've heard of confirmation is like a Catholic thing that you do like through all of high school.
I've heard it for Catholic churches. Is Episcopal?
Maybe, I don't know. I've only heard of it in Catholic and
Catholic Light
Methodist churches. And for us, what I basically thought it was for my church specifically, it was 8th grade. You would spend the year learning what it meant to be, like the basic tenets of what it means to be a Christian, learn basically what the gospel was, a little bit of Bible history.
Okay.
Nothing super hardcore or crazy. There was homework, but I would literally do it in a half hour before class every week. It wasn't the end of the world kind of deal.
Was the, I guess, relationship with Jesus or coming to know Jesus, was that part of that?
It was supposed to be, but it wasn't for me.
Okay.
So like throughout this, so that's why our stories kind of line up, is even though I'm saying I'm doing all these churchy things and doing all this stuff at church and really good friends at the church, and like I was really good friends with my youth pastor and all that, I was doing all this churchy stuff. I believe I can tell you that I wasn't believing a single bit of it when it came to what the gospel was and who Jesus was.
Right. You were just there for the cookie.
I was just there for the cookie.
Right.
I was there for the dinner. And I was honestly there for the friends and the community that was there. It was a really good community to like be surrounded by throughout my entire like life in Connecticut, honestly. And so what really hit me hard was when I moved after my freshman year back to Texas, to Katy. I lost that community, and I realized I attached myself to the community more than I had to Jesus.
When did you move again?
I moved when I was 15.
15?
Right before sophomore year.
That's like prime friendship.
That was prime
making time.
That was like, and at this point, we had been trying to move for 3 years. So I was convinced that it wasn't going to happen. And it was kind of like 6 months before we did, my mom was like, all right, we're moving out in 2 months. And then we're spending the last couple months of our life in Connecticut in an apartment because they wanted to live in the house like ASAP. Okay. That was a very all of a sudden move.
So in your mind, you're just like, it's just talk.
Yeah.
And then your mom just shows up like, all right, Nick, pack your stuff. We're leaving tomorrow. It's like,
yeah, pretty much. At that point, I was convinced it was talk. I was convinced I was going to graduate from Ridgefield High School and it was going to be great. And then next thing I know, I'm in Katy, Texas.
Nice.
Very big change, especially like 15-year-old, 16 years old. I was 15, but I was like a year younger in my grade. So like that's prime time for like all teenage stuff happening. Like you're getting your car, you're really cementing in who your friends are in high school. And I had to do all of that a year late. It's like the first year of high school, you're getting to meet all the people that you weren't with. You're like finally combining. I had to learn from scratch. And so my first summer there, I was really alone. I didn't feel great. I didn't get depressed. I've never like suffered from depression or anything like that. I was blessed like my entire time through life. Honestly, I've never like had struggled with drugs or alcohol or anything. And that like wasn't a thing I went to at the time. For me, it was just like I played a lot of video games and I played a lot of video games with my friends in Connecticut over the internet. But I realized that I attached myself to my friends in Connecticut and to my community at the church more than I had to Jesus, and I just didn't care about the Jesus part of it at all. So when I tried to get plugged into the United Methodist Church that my family still goes to now in Katy, I didn't care. I didn't immediately click, so I just went because my mom wanted me to. I didn't pursue anything in terms of like reading the Bible on my own, doing any of the stuff I was taught at confirmation, going to any of the youth stuff. I went on 2 trips maybe in 3 years, 2 guys trips. Whereas before I was going to every youth thing possible and going to everything. I just didn't settle with this community, so I didn't care. Right. And that's and like honestly, the only reason I was sticking around was to go on this crazy mission trip at the end of senior year.
Gotcha.
Senior year in high school, the seniors would go to Jamaica on an international mission trip, and I loved mission trips as a kid, so I wanted to go for the first time in 3 years to a mission trip, just because I knew it was going to be fun.
It's Jamaica,
and it's Jamaica, international trip first of all, and it's a tropical island, and I love the beach. Yeah, so it was a win-win-win for me. Fun international beach. Nice, great. But before that, senior year was like the hardest part of life for me, I'd say, in terms of like a whole like year's worth of time and mainly for emotional struggles. At that point, what I had happened to me in Connecticut in terms of attaching to community had really happened again in terms of attaching myself to my swim team and my swim coach and their opinions and expectations of me. And I put like all of my identity and where I sought approval and purpose from into like that group and into my success there and the people there and their opinions of me. And that year I experienced a lot of disappointment, and a lot of kids on the team didn't like me or didn't approve of me. I thought I was weird or out there because I wouldn't do the things that they did, whether it be party, drink, have sex with each other, like all that stuff I just wasn't about. And it wasn't from like a biblical standpoint. I wasn't about them. I just saw all the consequences people had from them. And like logically to me, I was like, makes sense not to party, makes sense not to drink, makes sense not to have sex with every person that you see. You know, it was never from a biblical standpoint. So we get to Jamaica, I'm very lost, very confused. I just don't know what I'm doing with my life. I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing. I get to Jamaica, and I literally write down in a journal that I still have on my phone to this day, like, I don't expect God to do anything to me on this trip. I've never written a journal in my life, but the first thing I wrote down in a journal that I just suddenly wanted to write was, I'm going to have a fun time, and I don't think God's going to do a thing.
See, it's when you do that, that's when the Lord's like, ha, show you.
Exactly. No, so we get to the first night of Jamaica, and we were doing a Bible study on 1 John. And if you ask me my favorite book in the Bible, I'm going to say it's 1 John.
1 John, okay.
Because it's very polarizing, very literally hitting you in the face with truth. It's like you're either all in or you're all out. And hearing that for the first time and just getting random questions I had about God and Jesus answered, that just started happening from day one throughout the rest of the week. And I just felt myself getting questions answered, assumptions like disproved in terms of who God was. And I got to experience what authentic Christ-like community was for the first time. Like these people that I had basically been avoiding for 3 years treated me like family and cared about me and were talking to me and engaging with me.
Yeah.
And the people in Jamaica were engaging and loving and were so filled with love. And they were the two groups that are from completely separate worlds, one super impoverished and in a tropical island, and one from a suburb of Houston, super rich. I came together and were one big happy family. And I like didn't get it. So like we're going through the week, and I'm just like I'm like getting the questions answered, but I'm also kind of confused because I've never like felt like God's ever spoken to me before. And that's kind of like what was happening, but I didn't know. So what I did is I talked to my youth pastor at the time. His name is Jeremy Galasso. He, like, the Lord used him in such an amazing way that week to just kind of come to me, and he'd been trying to connect with me for 3 years straight, ever since I moved. But I went to him and was like, Jeremy, like, I feel like God's answering questions. He's never done that for me before. And I'm like believing the answers, and I've never believed them before. And he said that like that was God talking to me to keep pushing, keep listening, keep asking questions. And that he just said throughout the rest of the week, like you'll continue to see God move. And he was absolutely right. We get to the last night of the trip. We had prayer partners all week, so we were going around kind of sharing what had happened, what prayers had been answered for each person.
Oh, that's different. Okay.
Yeah. So it finally gets to me. My prayer partner said stuff that she had seen in me. And then it gets to me, and I have to share what I'd seen in my prayer partner, and then I also had to share like what had been happening to me on the trip.
When you say seen in you, do you mean like prophecy? Or
I might have been that. We didn't call it that.
Okay.
I didn't learn about that stuff till college.
Well, that's what we call it at Antioch.
Yeah.
You know, when we prophesy over people.
Yeah, I mean, it probably was that, but we definitely just was like, it's literally just said, what are some things you saw in this person, or what prayers were answered kind of deal.
Gotcha, okay.
And then so first off, I started with like what had happened to me on the trip. And I had told myself the entire circle through, and I was one of the last people. I'm like, I'm not going to cry. I'm a crier, but I'm not going to cry. It's going to be fine. And then as soon as it got to me, I was like, hey guys, and I just pause. And the tears start coming, and I just lose it. I am a waterworks. And I just basically explained to that group of people, like, I've been avoiding you for 3 years. I was so honest in that moment. I was like, I've been avoiding all of you, all like 25 of you for 3 years. And like now you like feel like family to me. And I feel like I experienced godly community for the first time. I didn't say it in those words, but to like sum it up, I was like, I feel like I experienced godly community for the first time, and I don't know what following Jesus is. All I know is that you and the Jamaicans all love each other so much, and the one thing you guys all have in common is your love for Jesus, and you're following and pursuing him. And I want that love in my life because I wasn't getting it from the communities I was attaching to, or the ideas or expectations of other people that I was attaching to. So that night, I think if I remember correctly, it was March 12th, 2015. I said, like, I literally said, I don't know what following Jesus looks like, but I'm in. I'm all in for it. So despite growing up in the church, it took 17 years and an international mission trip to really set the gospel into my heart and say, yes, I like want to follow Jesus, because he is like the only person that can really satisfy like the attention and love that I wanted. So that was spring break. It was great. I got plugged into my church. Finally started doing stuff at St. Peter's.
From the Lord's perspective, it's like, okay, finally got Nick. Now let's use him.
Yeah. So I started doing stuff. It was like March. The stuff school ended in beginning of June, so there wasn't much going on. Summer's pretty chillax, except for I started dating one of my friends on the mission trip. And the reason this matters is because we dated for the whole summer in a very weird fashion that I don't want to get into right now. But basically, I get to college, and within the first week, we break up. For very dumb reasons, very ignorant, dumb freshman boy reasons. I was 18. Okay. I was barely 18. She was 18 as well. I didn't want to date distance, and there's other stuff that I was basically really stupid about. But that breakup went so horribly, and she was friends with all of my friends from St. Peter's that came to A&M that I thought I couldn't talk to them anymore. And that was my entire church community foundation that I thought that I had squandered in this one moment. So I just avoided the church because of my own mistake. I believed that I couldn't go to church or go hang out with these people that were in my church community because of the mistake I had made and the way I had acted in that way. So for the first semester, I didn't go to church really at all. I went a couple times to Antioch, ironically, because a friend of mine was trying to go, and she would always, if she was going, I would go with her, and she wouldn't go often, so I would go often. Then we get to the most important winter break I've ever had in my life, because I had in my earthly eyes, the best winter break possible. I did nothing but eat, sleep, work out, and play video games for 6 weeks straight. And I hated it. It was everything I'd ever wanted in a break, and I absolutely hated it. And I realized that when talking to some friends one night about it, that the last time I had been satisfied completely was when I was involved in church. And I hadn't thought about church for months at that point, but I realized, for some reason, God told me that during that break, you need to get involved in church again. So I ended up going to a couple Antioch events that aren't church.
Which one?
I went to one college rally back in the day.
When we called them college rallies.
When we called them college rallies. And this cool guest speaker came. I don't remember his name, but I realized I want to try out a life group. So I went to church that Sunday, filled out one of those Connect cards. Those work, fam. Just saying. Those do work.
I've never filled one out for life group. I think I filled one out to give them my info.
Yeah.
But that was it.
Well, I was able to fill out for life group, and I got contacted by a girl named Monica Sarmiento to go to her life group. Went and realized life group was for me, but not this life group.
Okay.
So the next week, what happened is I had Collegiate Day of Prayer happen, which is where all the churches in the area. Was
that still at what's that one down?
It was at Brazos Fellowship.
Okay.
That year was at Antioch. Antioch hosted my freshman year. So this is about 2 years ago. Antioch was hosting. My friend who was taking me to church the first semester, she brought me to Collegiate Day of Prayer and then accidentally ditched me to go be with her friends. So I was alone at this church event. Didn't know what to do, but I knew I was there, and we were going to pray. I didn't know how we were going to pray for an hour and a half, but we were. All of a sudden, my future roommate, Ryan Obasta, comes up and says he had been going to the church in Katy with me. He was one of those people that I confided in after I was saved.
And he went to Jamaica with you.
He went to Jamaica with me.
Did Josh go to Jamaica with you?
He's not important right now.
Okay. I was just curious because I know y'all grew up together.
Yes, Josh went to Jamaica with me. Yeah, Ryan, Megan, and Josh were there the moment I got saved. They've been there since day one of my second life.
They might come up in what we're about to talk about. So
it's true. They might come up. So they're important.
I wanted to give them a really awkward introduction to what we're talking about.
So Ryan comes up and is like, "Hey Nick, you want to pray with me for the next hour and a half?" And I was like, "Sure." And after the hour and a half, I'm so shook.
Did he give you the straightforward "Hey Nick, we're gonna pray for an hour and a half" like he does nowadays?
No, he was just like, "Hey Nick, do you want to pray with me?" I'm like, "Sure." I didn't know what that meant, and then I literally just followed him around like a little kid, holding the dad's hand, around, just following around. I just followed him because I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
After an hour and a half, I'm just sitting in a chair in awe of what God has done in the room and what it felt like to pray. I was probably just in awe of just the presence of God in that room, but I didn't know that because I hadn't been taught about that at all while I had been doing stuff after I got saved.
I want to clarify real quick, for Brian. He's not always serious like that now, but there have been a few moments where when we do stuff like that. Yeah. I think this is when he was in a leadership capacity. Yeah. He's like, "All right, guys, we're doing, we're going to be doing this."
No, he wasn't a leader yet, so he was chill.
Okay.
And he's still chill now.
He is still chill, yeah. But I'm not bashing the man. I love him.
I think he knew his audience, so he knew he had to be a bit more chill with me because I was very uncomfortable at the time. so he comes up to me at the end of the night and is like, hey, do you want to come to my life group? Which he had already asked me twice before this on random Sundays I had gone, and I had told him, I'll think about it. Which meant no, and he probably knew that. So I told, third time's the charm, will you go to life group, my life group, Wednesday nights, 7 to 9, and I said, only if you give me a ride.
Did you say it like that?
Yes, I said, only if you give me a ride. And he said, absolutely. I have your number still from when we were in high school. I'll let you know what time it all starts and stuff. And so the next week comes around. He picks me up 10 minutes late because that's how we roll. But his security was he was the worship leader at the time, so he knew that they couldn't start worship without him. So it was all going to be fine.
Is he still playing the drum?
No, he was the guitar for the life group worship, stuff like that. So pull up life group. I see Megan there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen her in forever. And then Ryan introduces me to some friends. And by the end of the first night of life group, I'm just sold that this is where I need to be. Like, this is the community I want to be around. Ryan asked me the next week while we were doing a Revive fast, which is where we were fasting and praying for our mission trip, spring break mission trip for that year.
For Revive?
Revive that year. I came the week before Revive. And they were like, do you want to fast for 3 days? And I was like, I got nothing better to do, sure.
This introduction, real introduction to
life group number 1. We're fasting for 3 days, and I was like, "Sign me up!" And then Ryan asked me to meet with him during those days just to see how we were doing. And during that week, he asked me if I wanted to be discipled by him. And so after that, the rest of the semester, he taught me what it meant to have a relationship with Jesus, that it was even possible, and how to see God move in your daily life and really pursue him in everything that you do, and not just in these isolated churchy settings. And he also introduced me to my best friends that I have now. And ever since then, I've been plugged in that community, and it's been really the best possible thing for me, both in terms of quality of life and quality of spiritual health. Just being around such an encouraging group of people who are constantly pointing me towards Jesus. And I didn't know it was possible until I got reunited with my old friends and new as well.
Nice. And
that was college.
It hasn't stopped though, because after that discipleship moment, Lord's done some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to my story a little bit. I want to sum it up because it'll help make my college experience makes sense.
Yeah, because you already said what happened in Corpus.
Yes, but going back to when I got saved.
Okay.
That entire period from when I got saved to going off to college. If I were to sum that up, it was God made sense.
Okay.
Because in your testimony you have this moment where you recognize some sort of brokenness, or you recognize that need.
Yes.
And it maybe it's just because I'm not so much of a feeler. I didn't have, I didn't cry, or I didn't. I didn't have a set moment where it's like, oh, now I'm free from this. I had that with giving up sin, or certain types of sin. But when I made the decision to let Jesus into my life like that, it's because it made sense. Sin made sense. What Jesus did for us made sense. And in my mind, I was like, why wouldn't you take that? It made sense.
Yeah.
And then from there on out, my walk with Jesus has been about, it's not like proving his existence to myself, but understanding him as to the best of my ability so I can be 100% confident. When things try to hit me, it's like, nope, I know that's bad. Or I know I shouldn't go that way. Or when it comes to hearing going off to college, hearing what God wants me to do when I have to make a major decision, being able to discern, nope, that's the Lord. I need to go that way.
Yeah. And
that's what it has been since I've been in college, because in Corpus, freshman year in Tamu CC, I had a church for that first year. And when I came to College Station afterwards, I was hopping around a little bit, but I reached a point where I said, I don't want a break, but school is killing me. And so when I look at what I can cut, I guess I chose church. I was just I was hopping around to churches. and then it's like I need my Sunday to work on stuff. I was studying chemistry, and then I was trying to get into engineering, and I did, but just when you're trying to make that transition, there's a lot of math you got to do. Organic chemistry's hard. Just trying to get all that sorted out, and then trying to figure out what you want to do. I felt like I was trying to prove myself for maybe the first 3 years of college, because I was in Corpus because I was trying to get to the main campus, and so I did that. Then I got here, and then they told me I have to meet all these requirements just to get into engineering. So I was like, okay, let's do that. And I guess with all the stress that I had in that season, I just kind of said no to church, and I kind of started flying solo. I didn't give up on Jesus.
Yeah.
I still had some quiet times. It wasn't a daily thing. It started moving from this routine relationship to a more organic and just living, breathing relationship where it's every day. I wake up and I acknowledge God.
Yeah.
I go to bed acknowledging God.
Yeah.
And every second of the day, it's not me tackling the world. It's me and God tackling the world. Yeah. And that's just kind of been my lens. That's my perspective on everything. And I was able to do it. I was able to fly solo. It was a year and a half being here where I was just flying solo. And I always thought, I should probably get back into a church, but I have homework to do, or I got to go teach, right? Because that's when I started doing SI, and teaching chemistry and physics and stuff. And so, the community aspect left. Yeah. And part of me was okay with it because I'm kind of introverted. But it was the end of a fall semester, first semester when I got into nuclear engineering. Ashley Vargas. She's heard this story so many times because I've shared it so many times in group settings. Yeah. But I'll share it again. She worked with me. She was also an SI teaching, I think, with one of the biology classes. And we rode the same bus. And then she invited me to like one of the Thanksgiving. It's like all the life groups come together as a Thanksgiving party, thing. Yeah. And it was kind of awkward on the bus because we were just talking. She was talking to me like she knew me. Like we were best buds or something. And I was like, I don't remember your name. I'm sorry. In my mind, I was that way. The way I acted around her was I was just trying to be respectful and try to keep the conversation going, not make it awkward by saying I don't know your name. And I kind of know how I'm associated with you.
Ashley's always like that. She loves talking to people like their family.
Yeah, but I remember it was her turn to get off it was her stop for her to get off the bus. I was a few stops down. Yeah, and we never like exchanged contact info. And it's like as she was getting off, she was trying to get some contact info so she can send me information for the party. And I shouted my email. That was the first thing that came to mind. And I thought that would be the most memorable. That's awesome. Because it was like a @tamu.edu. So all you got to do is remember the first part. I threw the first part at her. Said, that's my A&M email. My A&M email. Excuse me. So yeah, that was interesting.
That's awesome.
And then that's when I started getting connected in Antioch. It was Antioch Community Church. Wow, it was a 180 from what I grew up with.
Same for me.
And that's what I've been with. And so we're gonna kind of have a little hard cut here. Now Nick and I are gonna share what's been going on past 3 years. So now you're in Antioch.
I'm in Antioch.
You're kind of like settled. Yeah. For me, it took me into that spring semester to kind of check it out, and then I went up to Ryan. Yeah. And I said, okay, I feel like this is where God wants me to be. I got the green light from him. Yeah. What do I do? And that's what I told him. I said, what do y'all need? Because I'm the service type of guy. So it's like, give me an assignment. Yeah. I like to have a mission. And then when I accomplish a mission, give me another mission so I can go do that. And so now we're both in Antioch.
Yeah, we are.
And it's a great time. Instead of going through all of, I guess, what we've been... Yeah. just the little stories of life group and whatnot. What have been some memorable moments or just maybe some of your favorite moments at Antioch or some highlights. Just over the past few years, what's the Lord been doing?
So, for me, the cool stuff hasn't necessarily been with what I've done specifically with Antioch, although Antioch has opened me up to all the opportunities that I've had. So I grew up doing all the churchy stuff because I liked it, not necessarily because I knew Jesus. Ever since I started doing Antioch, I've done a lot of churchy stuff because I love Jesus and I like all the community and stuff. So I've had the fortunate opportunity to be involved with not only just Antioch's leadership team and as expansive as it gets.
Life group leader.
I was a leader on the college media team. I do like a bunch of photo stuff and video stuff for the church. But that's all my Antioch stuff. I've also had the pleasure of being a part of Breakaway Ministries volunteer team. I got to be a part of their media team there. And I also got to be a part of Impact, our local ministry here, where basically
it's like
camp for Christians, you know? Yeah. It's the goal and what I love about all these things, and even like events like Collegiate Day of Prayer, I've gotten to be involved in the media stuff there in terms of recording videos that can sent to churches to promote it for the following year. I've done all these things, and what have these things have in common besides like the Antioch stuff, like the Breakaway, the Impact, and the Collegiate Day of Prayer? For me, why I remember these things and events and parts of my church experience and Christ walk here in college the most is because of the examples they are for the possibilities that can happen when the church is unified. That has, for me, been the biggest thing I've seen, because I grew up in a very denominations exist for a reason, and they don't often like each other, and this denomination hates that denomination. Protestants hate Catholics.
They may not hate, but there are definitely jokes.
I literally grew up believing that that's what happened. I don't believe it's true now, but I grew up thinking I'm not supposed to like Catholics. They're super strict and weird. These are the stereotypes that I grew up on, and they're all the ones that are super bad. But I just thought that that's how it worked. But then I come to be an impact counselor, and I see so many people from so many different churches just all working toward this one goal, which is to introduce freshmen to a Christ-like community, no matter what that looks like. In College Station, I saw so many of my freshmen go to churches that aren't Antioch, but I was so happy that there were counselors that I was friends with from this church that I knew and trusted that could introduce them to community there. Yeah. Even being at Impact itself, just seeing so many people from so many different backgrounds, whether it be super distant backgrounds of how they grew up, or even just backgrounds of I'm from a different church in College Station than you, just seeing them all worship Jesus the same way or believe the same things. For me, it's so even the most basic thing of we believe the same simple truth about Jesus, but we're raised in a different way or brought up in college in a different way. It blows my mind, and it just is so cool to me to see the church, even though there are different buildings and different ways of necessarily practicing, it all comes down to the same core truth, and just seeing what can be done and all the encouragement and uplifting that can happen when you bring all of the church and town together. It's incredible. Even being a part of Breakaway staff, just us having the goal of making sure that a message about God is delivered the best way possible and people get to encounter God the best way possible through worship. Being a part of a team from so many different backgrounds is just so cool to see that we can all, despite our differences, work towards this same goal, which is to glorify God through the medium of Breakaway Ministries. Yeah. And it just always blows my mind to see so many different people. It's the same thing as Impact. So many different people doing the same thing. Yeah. Look what you can do when you have one specific purpose lined up to do that. In Collegiate Day of Prayer, we're all getting together. All the churches, all the college ministries that are able to come in College Station are coming together for the same prayers for the same people in the same town. And we've seen those prayers come to fruition just because college ministries are growing more and more every year. And can only think about those moments where all the churches are saying, I don't care where you end up as long as you end up with Jesus. And there are people that you're surrounded by that can support you in that. That's a win. And to see churches unified under that statement is so cool. I hated growing up and seeing church as a competition, and I hated thinking that was a thing. But just to see in town the church being unified in the way of just supporting one another and supporting one another's ministries, those are the moments or just organizations I've been a part of that I've seen that the most, and to me are the coolest stories ever of just seeing all those people come together for Jesus and just for building up his community. It's just been so cool to watch.
Nice. So for me, the here and now is really all about community. I'll compare and contrast the differences between Antioch and my upbringing, and just how each church does ministry. But community is different, and I think it's played a huge role in the past year of just college, because freshman year, that's when you make your college friends.
Yeah,
I did freshman year in another town, so I made friends there, sure, but I knew I wasn't going to see them again unless they came to College Station with me. But there's a couple that I knew were part of the same transfer program, but we didn't really know each other that well. They're just in classes, and we saw each other at meetings. Does that make sense? So that was okay. I was like, I had fun while I could, and then I came to College Station. Then I started kind of the solo route. I met some folks in my classes and hung out with them. I'd go to the rec or whatnot, but I didn't really do anything. It's just my roommates, which I grew up with in school, like middle school and high school. They are also at College Station. So I hung out with them, but I didn't really have anybody else. And so you do that all the way through, I guess, half of your junior year. The time that time that you use to really develop friendships and make crazy memories and go on real fun trips and whatnot with those people, I kind of missed it. Now I'm not making it up, not saying that you have to have that experience, but it didn't show up.
Yeah.
And then when I first started getting into Antioch and I started going to life group and whatnot, it was really nice just to get a feel of, I have people to go to. It's like, Wednesday night we're meeting at so and so's house, and every Wednesday we're doing that. Being in a group me with lots of people, just talking about the day or sharing weird things they find, or that was just different. You never had that activity. It was always just, I go to school, I take care of business, I will go teach in the evenings, which that kind of provided a little bit of community, the people I taught, because I got to know them. And I think that's what really helped the quality of my teaching, is because it sounds kind of weird. Lack of church community provides great teaching community, which helps me, communicate organic chemistry to them. But that was kind of what community did, and it's been real fun, because now I've been on mission trips, Revive and Impact trips, and even just little things like fishing trip I organized.
Yeah.
Just getting to do life with some college folks. Now the differences between Antioch and back home are very apparent.
Oh, okay.
First actual Antioch event I went to was a college rally.
Oh, man.
It was the last college rally of that fall.
Oh my gosh, those got nuts.
And I remember I had to show up late because I was given an SI session, and it was end of the semester, so people were kind of freaking out, and I couldn't skip that to go to church. I was like, I need to teach these people, teach them, show up late. What I thought I walked into was the invitation time. So what I mean by invitation time is our church, Calvary had a setup where you worship, and you have announcements, and you'll have your reading of scripture, the sermon, offering, and then an invitation time at the end, kind of like we have at our service, where people can come up and but we just it was an invitation time. And we expected that at every service. We never had just worship services, which is what this was.
Yeah.
I was expecting a speaker, or I was expecting I missed the speaker, and that I was just kind of, I'd meet some people there. I walk in the door. First thing I see are 3 people on the ground, like laying there, and they're worshiping. I was like, this is new. I was like, this is not a Baptist church. And it was dark. It was the sanctuary.
It's like Antioch has a Baptist background. It's so great.
This is not what. Well, it wasn't what I was.
It's very much in the background.
This is the Baptist church that the Baptist conventions don't talk about, I guess. I don't know. It was new to me.
Yeah.
And I start walking around, and like the left, where our section hangs out. And it was dark. I was looking around, and I'm just looking at the people. There's like huddles, people praying over each other, and like there's people at the front, and that's why I thought it was kind of the invitation time. I was like, is people responding to a message or something? And I was like, okay. But we were just playing music, and as I keep looking around, it's more people on the ground, more people sitting there reading their Bible, just doing whatever they wanted to worship, however they worship. That's what they were doing.
Yeah. And
then I went and I found it was Ashley. She told me to find her backpack on the ground, so I found that, and that's where everybody was. And I was like, okay, I kind of hop in there with everybody, and the way I worship is like I stand there and I try to sing the best I can. I'm not a great singer, and I try to use that time to really just show just reverence for God. You have God the Father, and you have just Jesus, who is this friend and companion to you. But I usually during worship, I always try to focus on, this is my King. If I'm going to worship my King, does that make sense?
Yes.
If I'm going to worship my King, I can go crazy for him. But just my mentality at the time, it's changed a little bit, was I need to, I don't need to go crazy in front of this guy. I need to just give him all my focus.
Yeah.
And what I'm doing, my singing, I need that to be the best.
Yeah.
And if I'm sitting here, that was just my view. It's opened up for sure.
Yes.
But that was just my view of it, and I still view it that way a little. It was just so different. Just me standing there, and everybody's just kind of flailing around or dancing or whatever. And I'm not bashing it at all.
It's just
great.
very different.
It's very Psalms like.
Yes.
And so again, nothing wrong with it.
No, not at all.
Not the way I was doing it at the time. And so you have that, and then I start going to life group, and I think it was the second life group. So when you were leading Ashland's house, or Ashland and Kayla's house, I should say. It's like the second life group. Y'all were like, all right, or no, I think it was the third. Second or third, I get there, we sit down, and I'm expecting, the same order that we went through last time. And then we do something, give some announcements or whatever, and you're like, okay, so guys, tonight we're doing outreach. Get in the cars and let's go. And I was like, what? And I was cool with doing evangelism. I had no idea we were doing it that night. I had not prepared myself to get in somebody's car.
It worked.
And I was not prepared to get in somebody's car and head to campus and try to go share the gospel with somebody. Just doing that, what was random to me, doing that randomly was new. When I first started doing discipleship with Austin and kind of checking that out, I'll do discipleship differently. It was a one-on-one thing. Back home, it was we had like discipleship classes. So you'd meet with a group of people, you'd read through a book together, go through some curriculum or something, whether it be a man's class or a youth class, or you want to know more about like I think there was one is like following in his steps or something. It was basically about Jesus' life. And there's a video you'd watch, and it was like the places where Jesus actually was in Israel and whatnot. And learning about that and learning about Jewish tradition. So you're still learning and you're still meeting together and chatting, but just discipleship was different. And then spiritual gifts were different.
Yes.
Like the prophecy thing. Yeah. Prophesying over one another. I'd never done that.
Same.
And so it was, I was like, what, how do you do this? What's going on? And the tongues thing, I think you were the one who introduced me to tongues first. We were in your car.
We were in my car, and you're like, I was saying like this one song is playing. I'm like, I like this song because it's like got tongues in the beginning, and you're like, I've never heard it before, and I'm like, oh, really? Yeah. Scroll to the spot, crank up the music. You hear that? Do you understand it? Exactly.
It's gibberish. So yeah, all of that was new.
Yeah. No.
And then I still run into little things. I think it was Revive, just seeing or hearing testimonies about we healed somebody today. It's like, what?
Yeah.
I've never heard a testimony about somebody who walk, besides Jesus, of course, or
Yes.
like Peter or Paul. In present day, somebody praying for somebody and they got healed. I've never heard that. And I've never seen that. Well, at the time. So that was new to me. And then having, of course, just these worship services that are just more energetic.
Yeah.
That was fine. It's fine to me now, but it was new. So that's just kind of some of the compare and contrast of Antioch and my upbringing, and then this most recent Revive was nuts.
Yeah.
This has been fun. I like stories and testimonies.
It's a fun time.
If you have questions or comments or anything about our testimonies, let us know. You can leave a comment or send us an email, send us a tweet. You can send me real mail, I guess. You got to find my mailbox first. I'm not giving you my address. But anyway, I think it's good.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.